What up, witches? Today is Thursday the 19th, so it's the spring equinox. I realized that the spring equinox doesn't actually start until 11:59 p.m. tonight, but I've been celebrating it all day, and so I'm just going to say today is the first day. It is the first day, but it's just not until later on, so happy spring equinox. Like I said previously, one of the things that I do on the equinox is I change out this bigger altar behind me. I do have two altars. There's one over there near my dining room area, and then I have this bigger one in my living area, and this is the one that I change out with the equinoxes and the solstices. If you haven't already noticed, it is already changed. So I'm just going to give a little bit of a tour of what I do when I change out my altars. So when I start to change out my altar for the seasons, I take everything off, or as much of it off as I can. I did leave the plant this time just because I knew I wasn't going to move that plant. But majority of the time, I take everything down because I know I'm going to be switching things out. Besides the triangles, and I knew I wanted to keep my sigil exactly where it was, so I didn't move the sigil either. But everything else I did take out. Then I like to actually clean the altar. So I do wipe it down, make sure there's no dust on it, no cat hair, because I do have two cats. I just like to make sure there's nothing else on it. I do like throughout the year just collect plants and things that present themselves to me or that feel like they need to be taken home. And so I usually take those and I'll put them on the little offering plates I have. And at the end of each season, when I change out the altar, I do take those old dried up plants that are now no longer fresh, and then I put them in my little jar of, or vase, my little vase of things that I just keep collecting. So at the end of each season, this is where I stick all the things that I collected for that season, and they just sit in there until it's too full. So far, I haven't had to change the jar out yet. I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do when I do decide to change it out, but for the time being, they're just in this little jar. And then that frees up each plate so that I can now put new stuff on the altar when I find them, or when they present themselves to me, or when the earth tells me, hey, this is yours, take it home with you. Speaking of the offering plates that I use, one is this piece of birch that I actually was, it wasn't given to me. I kind of took it. I didn't steal it. It's a piece of wood. Like, I didn't steal it, but my coworker at work was gonna throw it in the garbage, and I was like, wait a minute, is that a piece of birch wood? So I took it home with me, and I decided to put it on my altar. And this is one of the plates that I use to just set things on that I find, or things that present themselves to me. Anything of like natural in the world that I feel like needs to be taken home with me, I usually put them on this plate. And then the second one is just this very nicely flattened rock. It's a good shape and a good size to set things on. I do have this Palo Santo currently on it, and I do burn this one, and though I'd like to just stub it out on this when I'm done burning it, just so that it doesn't continue burning and burn down my house. I also really said that I wanted lots of plants this year. Last year I did do plants for the spring equinox on my altar, but this year I just wanted like in abundance. I wanted it to feel very lush and like looking like what it looks like now. So I did get 3 plants. I got this bigger snake plant in the middle, or mother-in-law's tongue, I believe it's also called. And this is the focal point of my altar. And then I did get these 2 smaller plants that I have on the side. And then I just put them on these little candle holders. And then these were from the Dollar Tree, I think. And I just used them to raise the plants up because I do like balance in my altars, and I like things to be high and low, and I like things to be like on the left and the right. I like my altars to be very balanced out. If that isn't obvious at this point, I like balance in my things. Something new that I added this time to my altar is actually this Tibetan singing bowl. This was a gift from my mother for my birthday this year. I had given her one a couple years ago, either for Mother's Day or her birthday. I'm not sure which one, but I had given her one because I know she really wanted one. And so it was really nice that she gave me this one this year, well, last year for my birthday. And it just has the most loveliest sound when you hit it. You can hit it like a chime, or you can actually put the stick around the bowl and make it sing, and it just creates the loveliest sound. And then to balance it out, I did want to put something on the other side that was roughly the same shape and size. If you saw earlier during the time lapse, I was thinking about putting my crystal ball up there, but I haven't really worked with that, and I don't really know how to work with it. So I wanted to put something up there that I actually know what I'm doing with. But so for this one, I just did put this brass bowl that was also gifted to me by my mother. And I thought it balanced it out nicely, and it's also nice to have just another element on the altar. As always, I have an abundance of crystals. These amethyst ones I did buy, but I do have some other crystals and these bowls right here that I found on the mountain. I've spoken about these plenty of times. I thought they were citrine, but then I did a lot of research on citrine, and it turns out they're just also heat treated amethyst that turned out to be yellowish amethyst, which people also still call citrine, but it's just not a true citrine. So I'm just gonna call it heat treated citrine. And then I also have these painted bottles, which I used to sell a couple years ago. They're very involved to paint though, and so I don't sell these anymore too much. But I do like to put them on my altar just to give it a little more dimension, give it a little height in places where it needs something a little bit higher up, and just to give it a little color. And just I like the designs I put on them because they're very reminiscent of like any type of mud cloth designs, and I like to put those on my altar. Other than that, I have some plants that I had already had on there. I was going to switch around the position of them, but I don't want to bother them too much because they're doing pretty well right now, and I don't want to move them around and then just get them to not be happy with the position they're in. So these two on the left and the right were originally in those spots on my previous altar, and so I just put them back in the original spots they were in. Other than that, in the upper triangles, the upper upward facing triangles, these are just more little trinkets. I have some crystal, and I put those in quotation mark pyramids that I made. They're actually resin, and I was planning on selling something like these where I would embed different herbs or different just different things inside of them. And then I realized I do not want to contribute to the plastic creation in the world, and so I dropped that idea, and I'm not going to be selling them just because I don't really like the idea of me producing more plastic to sell to people. That was not something I thought that I wanted to do. But I do have this other quartz pyramid that my sister bought me for my birthday, and so that one is also up here, also on an offering plate, but this one is just already full, so I'm just gonna leave it on there. I also have these two candles that my mother made for Kwanzaa one year, and I don't know what she made the other one for, maybe Kwanzaa a different year. She also makes soaps, and I do use her soap when she gives them to me, but for some reason the candles, I don't burn them. I just usually keep them on my altar. And then on top of the centerpiece, or below the downward facing large triangle in the middle, I do have this little broom, which I am planning on using, or a besom, whatever you want to call them. Either one is fine. So I am planning on working with this, and so I just wanted to put it there and hang it up and have it as an element, so that way I can remember to use it and that it's always there when I need it. And then the last couple of elements that I do have on here are ones that are usually on there. I don't move them, and that would be the two hanging rock necklaces, which I guess are just rock talismans hanging now, that are in the center of each of the upward facing triangles. And then the very large downward facing triangle is holding a sigil that I made out of sticks. The sigil is actually one that I put up for the winter solstice, and since then I've really liked it inside of there. It used to be inside my kitchen, but I actually much more prefer it inside of this larger downward facing triangle, and so I think I'm going to keep it in there. And that's essentially all my altar is this year. It's not much. Usually it's a lot more tamer than this for the warmer months. I like to keep it very empty and basic for the warmer month, and I like to really amp it up for the colder months and make it look a little bit warm and cozy. I put cloth and fabrics on it, but this year I really wanted to make it feel kind of lush, and I wanted to make it feel, well, not lush, I just wanted to make it feel like a garden, I guess, especially with everything happening right now. I need some peace, and I need a garden. I need my little tranquil area. So I'm really happy with how it looks. I'm happy with how it turned out. I'm excited for all the new plants that I added to my collection, and I like overall how balanced it is. I know I've said that a couple times in here, but I really enjoy the balance that the altar brings to my whole apartment. I think it works very well in it, and I like the balance that it brings. I'm just gonna leave it at that. I like the balance it brings, and I like that it's very large and in charge, and that when people walk in here, it's literally the first thing you see, because if you walk in that way, and you look straight, and that's the first thing you see is my altar, and I enjoy that. I do have to work on my smaller altar now, because that one I haven't changed in a long time, and that's the one that I work on a daily basis with. It's the one that has my manifestation box and all the other stuff on it, so that's the one I use the most on a day-to-day basis. This is the one I use not on a day-to-day basis, and it's more of an ornamental type thing, and I don't really know how to explain. I can't think of the word I'm trying to say, a sacred, sentimental type of I'll say sacred area. It's more of a sacred area than a like one that I work with all the time, and maybe for special occasions type thing. And the one behind is the one that I use on a daily basis. So I'm gonna work on that one because it's been a long time since I have updated that one. Other than that, I hope you guys are having a really great equinox. I did not start off the greatest because I did go to work and I was so annoyed today. But once I got home and I was able to clear out the space and redo my altar and all that, I was very happy. I'm gonna go work on the rest of the things that are on my list of things to do today for the equinox. I'm excited to celebrate the rest of it, and that's all. Okay, bye.